The Saudi Prince. How dangerous is MBS? Do you know who MBS is? You have any idea? Well, if you don't, let's tell you. It's Mohammed bin Salman, who's now serving as both the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and the country's de facto ruler. After the murder of Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Mohammed bin Salman was no longer held in high regard by the world community. Cracking information for the last 10 seconds, right? Well, excited to know more about this personality? Don't you worry, you'll get it right here at Next Tech Ventures. As he was once hailed as the leader who would convert the tradition-bound desert kingdom into a contemporary paradise, on the other hand, it appears that he has more influence than ever before now that the conflict in Ukraine is affecting energy supplies. President Biden, who has previously pledged to turn Saudi Arabia into a pariah state, has now traveled to the country to meet with King Salman. To what extent, therefore, is the Western world concerned about this young prince? In a relentless effort for control at home, while simultaneously pursuing a more muscular foreign policy in the region, the strong Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia has suppressed dissent and dismissed opponents. The powerful Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, has emerged unbowed from the international outrage over the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi 4 years ago. Western leaders who once tried to isolate him are now seeking his support. The outrage was caused by the killing of Khashoggi, and Joe Biden, the President of the United States, will travel to the oil-producing kingdom on Friday in the hopes of finding some relief from the skyrocketing prices of global petroleum products. Biden has accused the prince of ordering the murder of Khashoggi and has said that Saudi Arabia should be made a pariah. He follows in the footsteps of European politicians who decry the assassination of Khashoggi in 2018 by a Saudi hit squad in Istanbul, but acknowledge that they could not ignore the global oil behemoth and its de facto ruler. The prince is only 36 years old, but he's already left his mark on both the kingdom and the Middle East, even though he is technically still waiting to assume power from his elderly father, King Salman. He has suppressed dissent and marginalized rivals in an unrelenting push for control at home, while simultaneously pursuing a more forceful foreign policy in the region. He has taken steps that have delighted admirers, unsettled RIYADH's traditional allies, and shocked human rights advocates. He's also pursued a more forceful foreign policy in the region. The assassination of Khashoggi, an insider who had grown critical, was a particularly severe blow to the prestige of the prince, who is commonly referred to by his initials MBS. Even though he has assumed ultimate responsibility as a leader, he claims that he did not command the operation. The murder scared away some potential investors and severely damaged MBS's efforts to portray himself as a reformer working to introduce new liberties in the traditionally conservative country that is home to some of Islam's holiest sites. His detractors in other countries, however, appear to have changed their tune after being confronted with the prospect of a strong leader who may be in charge of the greatest economy in the Middle East for the next few decades. The overall endeavor by the West to try to minimize engagement with MBS after Khashoggi was slowly undermined, and Biden's visit will put a bullet into that concept, said Ayam Kamel of the consultancy Eurasia Group. He is there to resuscitate the Saudi-U.S. relationship, which in the current geopolitical situation has to be addressed because of the Ukraine crisis, because of rivalry with China, because of energy difficulties, and because of Saudi Arabia's regional dominance. Under the watch of the Crown Prince, far-reaching reforms, such as the listing of state oil giant Saudi Aramco, have been accompanied by a crackdown on dissent and activism, the detention of women's rights activists, and a secret purge of top royals and businessmen on corruption charges. Among the reforms that have been implemented is the listing of Saudi Aramco, and at the same time he vowed to take a stronger stance against the regional influence of Iran, which is a sworn enemy of Saudi Arabia, and he led the country into a war in Yemen that was expensive and unpopular. However, after President Biden pledged to take a tougher stance on Saudi Arabia, the Saudi prince made overtures that were seen as showing he was a valuable partner for maintaining regional stability. Donald Trump, who had served as president of the United States before Joe Biden and after Barack Obama, provided him with his public endorsement. These steps included a ceasefire in Yemen, a contract to settle a major crisis with Qatar that resulted in Riyadh and its allies boycotting Doha, and the beginning of direct negotiations with Iran to lessen tensions. All three of these agreements were made to defuse the situation. However, tensions continue to exist between the United States and Saudi Arabia as a result of Washington's limitations on military sales to the kingdom and indirect discussions between the U.S. and Iran to renew the nuclear deal from 2015 without the participation of Gulf states. Both of these factors have contributed to a reduction in the number of weapons that can be sold to Saudi Arabia. In addition, Biden's made it clear that he is not interested in having a direct conversation with MBS in his function as de facto dictator. During an interview with The Atlantic in March 2022, the Crown Prince answered the question of whether President Biden misread anything about him by responding simply, "I do not care." This caused discontent among some members of the royal family. MBS emerged from the shadows in 2015, the year that his father was named King of Saudi Arabia, after having spent a significant portion of his life there. After successfully deposing his older cousin as Crown Prince in a palace coup in 2017, he proceeded to increase his power over Saudi Arabia's security and intelligence services, which incited hostility among senior members of the royal family. In addition to this, he cast out prominent members. In the latter part of that year, he became the helm of an anti-corruption initiative that resulted in several prominent Saudis being arrested and held captive in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Riyadh for an extended period. This action caused shockwaves not just across the country, but also beyond international borders. MBS made several broad pronouncements regarding the economy, including the formation of new firms to give employment opportunities to Saudis, as well as the adoption of reforms to the country's budget. The prohibition on women driving was lifted, and theaters and other kinds of public amusement were legalized after extensive social reforms. According to sources with ties to the royal family and the business elite in Saudi Arabia, some members of the ruling family resent Mohammed's grip on power and have questioned his leadership following the unprecedented attacks on Saudi oil plants in 2019. This is even though Mohammed is popular among young Saudis and has supporters among many royals. In March of 2020, officials imprisoned his cousin, the former Crown Prince Mohammed bin Nayef, as well as the king's brother, Prince Ahmed. According to people with connections to the royal family, this measure was taken to ensure a peaceful transition of power. MBS has many supporters in the area. A source from the Gulf region said that his bulldozer style was exactly what was required to reform Saudi Arabia. The sale of Aramco shares was an essential component of the change in the economy. After multiple failed attempts, a listing was finally successful on the home market in 2019, temporarily reaching a valuation of $2 trillion. Nevertheless, there was an insufficient investor interest in a public offering on a foreign exchange. Additionally, the prince has made significant changes to Saudi Arabia's foreign policy. The assertiveness of the kingdom under MBS followed what some hawkish Saudi officials regarded as a decade of growing Iranian influence across the region. They were also concerned that Washington, under President Barack Obama, turned a blind eye to what they saw as the pernicious expansion of Iranian activity in Arab nations. The assertiveness of the kingdom under MBS came about as a result of these concerns. Riyadh and Tehran severed their diplomatic connections in 2016, but in 2021 they began direct negotiations to lower tensions in the area. This came at a time when Gulf governments were expressing doubts about the United States' commitment to the region. Hey, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. We sincerely hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like it and share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more. Thanks for watching.